Leonardo da Vinci, De Universal Genius.
Part 1. Early Life and Apprenticeship, 1452 to 1472. On April 15, 1452, in the small Tuscan town of Vinci, an extraordinary child was born who would become the embodiment of Renaissance ideals. Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci was born out of wedlock to Ser Piero, a respected notary, and Caterina, a local peasant woman. The circumstances of his birth, far from hindering his development, may have actually contributed to his unique path in life, freeing him from the traditional expectations of following his father's profession. The young Leonardo spent his formative years in the rustic setting of Vinci, initially living with his mother until age 5, before moving to his father's family estate. This early period proved crucial in shaping his worldview and fostering his insatiable curiosity. His grandfather Antonio and uncle Francesco played pivotal roles in his early development, especially Francesco, who shared Leonardo's fascination with nature and encouraged his observational skills. Together, they would explore the Tuscan countryside, where Leonardo developed his lifelong habit of careful observation and documentation of natural phenomena. Despite lacking formal education in Latin and mathematics, subjects that were considered essential for scholarly pursuit in Renaissance Italy, Leonardo displayed extraordinary talents in other areas. His artistic abilities emerged early, manifesting in detailed sketches of the natural world around him. The local landscape, with its rolling hills, diverse flora and fauna, and changing seasons, became his first classroom. He would spend hours studying the flight patterns of birds, the flow of water in streams, and the structure of plants and flowers, filling countless pages with detailed observations and drawings. In 1467, recognizing his son's exceptional artistic talent, Ser Piero arranged for Leonardo's apprenticeship in Florence at Andrea del Verrocchio's workshop. This move marked a crucial turning point in the young artist's life. Verrocchio's bottega was among Florence's most prestigious workshops, serving the city's elite and producing everything from paintings and sculptures to metalwork and jewelry. The workshop was a melting pot of various crafts and techniques, providing Leonardo with exposure to multiple disciplines that would later influence his holistic approach to art and science. During his apprenticeship, Leonardo's education went far beyond traditional artistic training. He learned metallurgy, chemistry, leatherworking, carpentry, and the technical skills of drafting and metalworking. This diverse technical education laid the groundwork for his later approach to art and science as interconnected disciplines. The teenage apprentice quickly mastered traditional techniques but began developing his own innovative methods, particularly in the use of light and shadow, chiaroscuro, and the simulation of atmospheric depth, sfumato, techniques that would later become hallmarks of his artistic style. Part 2. Early Independence and Milan, 1472 to 1499. By 1472, Leonardo had achieved a significant milestone by qualifying as a master in the Guild of St. Luke, the Association of Artists and Doctors of Medicine. Though he continued working in Verrocchio's workshop until 1476, his growing reputation had already begun to spread throughout Florence. A famous legend from this period tells that when Leonardo painted an angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, his master was so humbled by the young artist's superior talent that he vowed never to paint again. Whether true or not, this story reflects the remarkable skill Leonardo had developed by his early 20s. During his early independent years in Florence, Leonardo established himself as an innovative artist with works such as the Annunciation, 1472 to 1475, and the portrait of Ginevra de' Benci, 1474 to 1478. These paintings already displayed his revolutionary approach to art, particularly in his handling of perspective, light, and natural detail. His technique of sfumato, the subtle gradation of tone used to create soft, hazy outlines, began to emerge as a distinctive feature of his style. This period also saw him receiving his first independent commissions, including an altarpiece for the Chapel of San Bernardo and a piece for the Palazzo Vecchio. The year 1482 marked a crucial turning point when Leonardo moved to Milan, carrying with him a silver lyre he had designed and crafted himself as a gift for Ludovico Sforza, the city's regent. His famous letter to Sforza, offering his services, reveals much about how Leonardo viewed himself and his abilities. Rather than emphasizing his artistic talents, he primarily presented himself as a military engineer and inventor, listing his capabilities in designing bridges, tunnels, weapons, and defensive structures. This strategic self-presentation proved successful, as Sforza became his patron for the next 17 years. Under Sforza's patronage, Leonardo entered his most productive period. He established a workshop that became a center of creative and technical innovation. His responsibilities were diverse, ranging from designing elaborate court festivals and pageants to creating architectural plans for buildings and fortifications. During this time, he began work on some of his most ambitious projects, including the bronze horse monument known as the Gran Cavallo, which was intended to be the largest equestrian statue in the world. Although the bronze was ultimately used for cannons when Milan was threatened by invasion, the preliminary studies and models for this project demonstrate Leonardo's mastery of both artistic and engineering challenges. The Milan period also saw the creation of some of his most famous works, including The Last Supper, 1495 to 1498, in the monastery of Santa Maria del Grazie. This masterpiece exemplified Leonardo's innovative approach to traditional religious subjects. Rather than following conventional compositions, he created a dramatically new interpretation, capturing the psychological reactions of the disciples at the moment Christ announces his betrayal. His experimental painting technique, unfortunately, led to the work's rapid deterioration, though this has not diminished its influence on Western art. During these years, Leonardo's scientific and engineering interests flourished alongside his artistic pursuits. His notebooks from this period are filled with studies of human anatomy, botanical drawings, mechanical inventions, and architectural designs. He gained access to corpses for dissection at the Hospital of Santa Maria Nuova, producing detailed anatomical studies that were centuries ahead of their time. His engineering designs included flying machines, hydraulic pumps, reversible crank mechanisms, and various automated devices. The Milan years also saw Leonardo developing his distinctive working method of combining careful observation with systematic documentation. His notebooks, written in his characteristic mirror script, reveal a mind constantly exploring connections between different fields of knowledge. He studied optics to understand perspective, anatomy to better depict human figures, and botany to accurately render plants. This integrated approach to knowledge became one of his most important legacies to both art and science. The period came to an abrupt end in 1499 when French troops invaded Milan, forcing Ludovico Sforza from power. Leonardo left the city, beginning a period of travel that would see him working for various patrons across Italy. However, the 17 years in Milan had been transformative, establishing him as not just an artist but as a universal genius whose interests and abilities span the entire spectrum of human knowledge. Part 3. Mature Years and Scientific Studies, 1500 to 1513. The turn of the century marked the beginning of Leonardo's most intellectually mature period, characterized by an increasing focus on scientific investigation and theoretical studies. After leaving Milan in 1499, he entered a period of nomadic life, traveling across Italy and working for various prestigious patrons, including the infamous Cesare Borgia. This constant movement, rather than hindering his work, seemed to stimulate his scientific curiosity and drive for knowledge. During these years, Leonardo's approach to scientific investigation became increasingly systematic and sophisticated. His studies at the Hospital of Santa Maria Nuova in Florence represented a watershed moment in the history of anatomical research. Unlike his contemporaries, who largely relied on classical texts like Galen, Leonardo insisted on direct observation through dissection. He performed over 30 human dissections, producing extraordinarily detailed drawings that wouldn't be surpassed in accuracy for centuries. His anatomical studies covered every major organ system, from the skeletal structure to the cardiovascular system. He was the first to correctly depict the human spine, discovered the 4 chambers of the heart, and made groundbreaking observations about atherosclerosis. His studies of human embryology, including detailed drawings of the fetus in the womb, remain remarkably accurate by modern standards. This period also saw Leonardo's deepening interest in natural phenomena and engineering principles. His hydraulic studies were particularly noteworthy, as he filled countless notebook pages with observations and drawings of water flow patterns, wave formation, and the effects of obstacles on water current. He developed theories about erosion, geological layering, and the origins of fossils, presaging modern geological concepts by centuries. His engineering designs became more sophisticated, including detailed plans for flying machines based on his careful study of bird flight and air resistance. While these machines were never built in his lifetime, his understanding of aerodynamic principles was remarkably advanced, incorporating concepts that wouldn't be formally understood until the development of modern aviation. The creation of the Mona Lisa, 1503 to 1519, during this period represents the perfect synthesis of Leonardo's artistic and scientific knowledge. The painting's famous sfumato technique, creating an ethereal haziness around the figure, emerged from his studies of optics and the behavior of light. The subtle modeling of the face demonstrated his deep understanding of facial muscles and expression, gained through anatomical dissection. The mysterious landscape behind the figure reflected his geological studies and observations of atmospheric effects. Even the enigmatic smile, which has captivated viewers for centuries, was informed by his anatomical studies of facial muscles and his understanding of human psychology. Leonardo's scientific methodology during these years was revolutionary for its time. He emphasized the importance of empirical observation and mathematical precision, often conducting carefully designed experiments to test his theories. His notebooks from this period show an increasing use of mathematical calculations and geometric analysis in his studies of proportion, perspective, and mechanical forces. He developed a unique approach to technical illustration, using multiple views and cutaway drawings to reveal internal structures and mechanisms. This innovative method of technical drawing would influence scientific and engineering illustration for centuries to come. His botanical studies during these years were equally groundbreaking. Leonardo's plant drawings combined scientific accuracy with artistic beauty, showing detailed observations of leaf arrangements, flower structures, and tree branching patterns. He discovered phyllotaxis, the mathematical arrangement of leaves on plant stems, and developed theories about tree growth rings and their relationship to age. His studies of plant physiology included observations about phototropism, plant growth toward light, and geotropism, root growth toward gravity, concepts that wouldn't be formally understood until the 19th century. This period also saw Leonardo developing sophisticated theories about light and vision. He conducted extensive studies of shadow formation, reflection, and refraction, making important discoveries about the camera obscura effect and the nature of perspective. His understanding of atmospheric perspective, how air affects the appearance of distant objects, influenced not only his painting but also contributed to early theories of optics and atmospheric science. Throughout these years, Leonardo maintained his practice of extensive note-taking and drawing, filling thousands of pages with observations, calculations, and designs. His famous mirror writing, written from right to left, became more systematic, possibly as a method of protecting his intellectual property. These notebooks reveal a mind constantly seeking connections between different phenomena, trying to understand the underlying mathematical and geometric principles that govern nature. The mature period of Leonardo's life thus represents the culmination of his integrated approach to knowledge, where art and science, observation and theory, practice and speculation all merged into a unified quest for understanding. His work during these years laid the groundwork for numerous scientific disciplines and established methodologies that would influence researchers for centuries to come. Part 4. Final Years and Legacy, 1513 to 1519 and beyond. Leonardo's final years began with his move to Rome in 1513 under the patronage of Giuliano de' Medici, brother of Pope Leo X. Despite his advancing age, this period was marked by continued intellectual vigor and deepening theoretical work. In Rome, surrounded by the brilliant minds of the High Renaissance, including Raphael and Michelangelo, Leonardo focused increasingly on his scientific studies and philosophical contemplations, though his artistic reputation still commanded immense respect throughout Europe. During these years, Leonardo's experimental work reached new levels of sophistication. His studies of friction and mechanics led to discoveries that wouldn't be formally articulated until centuries later. He conducted detailed investigations into the properties of friction, understanding it as a force that resists motion between surfaces in contact. His notebooks from this period contain the first known studies of rolling friction and the first illustrations of ball bearings. He developed theories about the wear of rotating bodies and the relationship between force and motion that anticipated aspects of Newton's laws of motion. In 1516, Leonardo accepted an invitation from King Francis I of France, marking the beginning of his final chapter. The aging polymath settled at the manor house of Clos-Luce, near the king's summer palace at Amboise. Francis I provided Leonardo with a generous pension and, according to contemporary accounts, delighted in daily conversations with the master. These discussions ranged across art, science, philosophy, and engineering, with the king referring to Leonardo as my father and treating him with extraordinary respect. This period saw Leonardo focusing on organizing his vast collection of notebooks and studies, perhaps recognizing the need to preserve his lifetime of observations and discoveries for future generations. The significance of Leonardo's legacy cannot be overstated. His influence extends far beyond his immediate historical context, reaching into virtually every field of human knowledge. In the realm of art, his technical innovations, particularly sfumato, chiaroscuro, and atmospheric perspective, revolutionized painting and continued to influence artists for centuries. His anatomical studies, hidden from public view for centuries after his death, when finally published, transformed medical illustration and contributed significantly to the development of modern anatomy. Leonardo's engineering legacy is equally profound. His detailed studies of flight mechanics, though unable to achieve powered flight in his lifetime, laid important groundwork for modern aviation. His mechanical designs, including his studies of gears, levers, and other basic mechanisms, influenced the development of mechanical engineering. His hydraulic studies contributed to our understanding of fluid dynamics, and his architectural designs influenced civil engineering practices. Perhaps most significant is Leonardo's methodological legacy. His integration of careful observation, systematic documentation, and theoretical analysis established a model for scientific investigation that was centuries ahead of its time. His practice of combining detailed drawings with written descriptions and mathematical calculations created a new standard for technical communication that remains influential in modern scientific and engineering documentation. The breadth of Leonardo's interests and achievements has led to him being considered the archetypal Renaissance man. But this characterization perhaps understates his uniqueness. Unlike many polymaths who excelled in multiple fields, Leonardo sought to understand the underlying connections between different areas of knowledge. He saw art, science, and engineering not as separate disciplines, but as different approaches to understanding the same natural phenomena. After his death on May 2, 1519, Leonardo's vast collection of notebooks, containing an estimated 13,000 pages of notes and drawings, was dispersed. Many pages were lost, but those that survived continue to yield new insights into his genius. Modern scholars have discovered designs for robots, calculating machines, solar power systems, and numerous other innovations that were centuries ahead of their time. His anatomical drawings, when finally published, were found to be so accurate that they have been used in modern medical training. Leonardo's influence continues to grow as new generations discover different aspects of his work. His integration of art and science speaks particularly to contemporary concerns about bridging the gap between humanities and sciences. His ecological awareness and observations about natural systems resonate with modern environmental concerns. His emphasis on direct observation and empirical evidence aligns with current scientific methodology. The enduring fascination with Leonardo stems not just from his incredible achievements but from his embodiment of human potential for creativity and understanding. His life demonstrates the power of curiosity, observation, and integrated thinking in advancing human knowledge. As we continue to uncover new aspects of his work and thinking, Leonardo's legacy remains not just historical but actively relevant to contemporary challenges and aspirations. Part 5: The Eternal Relevance of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci remains one of history's most remarkable figures, whose work continues to inspire and amaze us 5 centuries after his death. His unique ability to combine artistic vision with scientific precision his insatiable curiosity about the natural world, and his innovative approaches to problem-solving make him not just a historical figure, but a continuing source of inspiration for modern thinkers, artists, and scientists. Through his notebooks, paintings, and scientific studies, Leonardo demonstrated that the boundaries between art and science are artificial, and that true understanding comes from observing the interconnectedness of all things. His legacy teaches us that curiosity, observation, and persistence are the key elements of both scientific discovery and artistic creation. If you've enjoyed this comprehensive exploration of Leonardo da Vinci's life and work, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps me continue creating in-depth content about history's most fascinating figures. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the comments below.